Hey folks, Sir Charles Carey here. I just want to jump on for a moment, like I always say, because as Dr. Jolly says, I only have a minute, only 60 seconds in it, in most cases anyway. But he goes on to share a lot in that, I guess, world renowned affirmation. But I just want to jump on for a minute to talk to you about what's in your pipeline. And, when I'm out doing different events, speaking, training, whatever it may be, you may see that I always either post a video on location or post a video of the actual event. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And we're going to get to that. But I just think that it's always important to have a pipeline. Now, some of you may not know what I mean by having a pipeline. And the pipeline is just a path or a tunnel or a process of doing one thing that leads to another and always staying active for the most part. That's what a pipeline is. And if you think about oil and gas, they have this pipeline that comes from Alaska that goes all the way through the country into different parts of the country. That's what a pipeline is. It may be obvious to some, but maybe not to others. So for me as an entrepreneur, what is my pipeline? And that's the same thing I would ask you. What is your pipeline? Now, consider this. If you're going to write a book in 6 months, if you're doing an event, let's say next year, if you are, doing anything that's not happening right away or not going to happen within a day or two, that's a event, hopefully, that you're planning for. Those are things that I consider being in your pipeline. And depending on the activity itself, it may take time. And that's another reason why you want to have things in your pipeline. You want to have things looking forward for you to do for your current audience, for new audience members, new participants, new customers and clients, as well as just to keep yourself on board. And here's the thing. Sometimes, again, if you do want to write a book, let's say it takes 4 to 6 months to get everything done. I'm talking about the writing, the editing, the graphic design, all the nuances to get your book together and to get your book published. Well, that will be something that's a projected goal, maybe a 6 month goal. But before that, you have an event coming up, let's say. Okay, let's say your event's in 3 to 4 months. Okay, so obviously that's a 3 to 4 month goal. That also has a certain amount of different things that are part of the planning process. So those are the types of things that I'm talking about when I say always having something in the pipeline. If my daily occurrences consisted of me doing these desktop discussions, and I know that I've got an event and a book coming out, well, during my daily discussions, I'm going to talk about what's coming up, what's in the pipeline. And again, this may be very obvious to some people, but it's not obvious to all. Even if you've been in the game for a while, it doesn't mean that you have to know everything. Some people make a big mistake by assuming that because you've done something a long time, you know everything in the world as it relates to that. I think that's a bad assumption. And the reality is, you might know a lot, you might know nearly everything, but the reality still is you're growing. You should always be growing. So if you don't know a specific thing, that's not the end of the world. That's just a part of the growth process. Eventually, you will get to learning that specific thing. And if you have to learn through a coach, okay, fine, you learn through a coach. If you learn through a video or whatever, you learn how you learn. The thing is to implement it. So, again, you already know what having a pipeline is now. Now, with each pipeline, there is a timeline. Like, for example, again, this may be very, how would I say? Goodness, I'm trying to find the right word. Elementary to some, and maybe this is considered a beginner's tactic or nuance. But, if you're doing something every day, that is also a part of your pipeline. It's just that it's a daily activity. The things that are further out, further planned out, those are just things you're working towards, things you're promoting, things you're expecting to get done. And the good thing about having those goals and those things to work towards, once you put it out there, it's kind of hard to pull it back because You've already let people know, hey, this is coming up. So now they want to see if you where the rubber meets the road. You know, if you're really going to do what you say that you're doing. And it's important to do that thing because you want to be a entrepreneur that's consistent regardless of the profession and regardless of the industry. You want to have a certain level of activity, which is really very important. So your timeline is going to be really important as it relates to what you do today, what you're planning tomorrow, and what you're planning in months to come. And in some cases, for some people, it may be in years to come. Now, what determines the timeline? Several things. How big is the goal? Is it a service based event or goal or activity? Is it a product based goal or activity? Well, those things take time, as I mentioned earlier. So, depending on what it actually is, that will determine the timeline and how much you want to talk about it beforehand and how long it takes for you to work towards getting that thing done. Because in many instances, with books, for example, you can have pre-orders. With events, you can have pre-sales. You know, on events, giving people early bird discounts to events and things like that. So having a pipeline is important in general. Having a pipeline, realizing what the timeline is and the reason for your pipeline, that's also very important. And also, what this does, it gives you a sense of relevance and a sense of visibility. Excuse my little blurb there. But the point is, of course, we all want visibility. We all want to be seen. We all want, how would you say it, for people to know us for a particular thing and to know that we're good at that particular thing. So that's almost like a duh, obvious reason for having a pipeline and having these notifications to be in the forefront of people's eyes. All right. Now, the relevance is the thing that you really want to look at. So, if you have a goal of doing a new book, product, whatever, or service, the thing is, it should be something that really makes a difference, something that helps people, whether they're entry level, entry level, elementary, or advanced. It doesn't, intermediate is the word I'm looking for. Entry level, intermediate, or advanced. Regardless to whatever level, you want to have something that really offers value to people on various levels. Now, if you know that you're niching for a specific market, then you're going to go directly for that market. And maybe it's not for the entry level or the intermediate. If it's only for advanced people, target it as such. But make sure in your pipeline announcement, in your advanced notifications, it's very crystal clear who you are targeting and what the benefits are for. And trust me, I'm not just speaking to you, I'm also speaking to myself because sometimes we can get so excited about having something come up that we forget some of the small details that make the big details and the big purpose of the event possible. What else can I tell you? I mean, you may not know all the different nuances of how to be an entrepreneur in today's society, especially if you've been around for a long time. Like I've been around for a very long time, sometimes doing things with music, sometimes doing things with speaking. However, when I first started, all this technology and all these digital tools were not around. But I've been able to stay the course throughout everything that's been uh, introduced to the marketplace, everything that's relevant to today's business owners. And it's funny because when I first started, I won't say there were not computers, but people didn't use computers on an individual basis as they do now. And of course, as computers became more advanced, there were different ways of doing things, just like how I'm doing this stream, right? So right now, this is going out to YouTube, it's going to Facebook, and it's going to a Facebook group. So the point of it all is you have to be willing to learn the different techniques so that you have a relevant pipeline. So when I say what's in your pipeline, it should be something that makes a difference to other people. And I would highly recommend, please like, share, and subscribe this because you never know who can benefit from the information. If you don't need it, perhaps someone that you know does need it. And if you do need it, please, I feel free to ask questions, post comments, and definitely take notes, because there may be one thing that really hits home for you. You know, I shared in a workshop I was teaching over the last few days. You know, you don't have to write down everything, because everything may not be relevant to you. But whatever it is that resonates with you, you want to hold on to that one thing. Then you can come back and get more, because you'll never learn everything in one sitting. So, by all means, definitely look at the ins and outs of what we're sharing today. Take note on what you need or what you like. Post your comments, ask questions, and check the page for more information if that's needed for you. Yeah. As it relates to getting good, you got to start. You know, you may not be good, you may be intimidated. You may I think I just dropped off, folks. I'm not sure what you last heard, but what I was saying is that you may be intimidated by the process of lining things up to even have a pipeline. And you may not be good at the beginning, but you have to just start. Once you just start, you kind of like get your feet wet. I can tell you honestly, I'm not good at everything that I do here, not in regards to technology, but you put me in front of a live audience and I come alive. Literally, that's my real playhouse. But you have to get started, and then you can become good. And, you know, it takes a while to learn the ins and outs of all things that technology offers, but at least you're in the game. So, again, you may not be good, just get started, then you'll get good. And then if you stay at it, you'll get better. So, with that being said, I want to wrap up today's talk, because it's not intended to be a really long one. I think I dropped the stream, but please go check out the page and see if there's something there that you need, or if you got the entire message, and I'll see if I can mend it if it's not there in its entirety. Thanks again, and always radiate the brain and change the game.